Good evening, everyone. And today we will be having a podcast with Chetan, who is a transformation leadership coach. Leadership I thought is a trait which always remains, but although context keeps on changing. But what is that big change you see?
Stability with job which used to be earlier is no more there. That brings a lot of pressure. Secondly, we hear all the time doing more with less. So in the era of optimization, cut through competition, that is another thing which is causing a lot of pressure, especially on the leaders. With the disruptions happening in the market, which are so rapid, the product cycles are decreasing. Some of the changes which are making it very challenging for leaders, and unless they can relate with what they are doing, they can see the value out of it, it leads to stress and burnout. The pre-described leadership formulas are no more working. They are no more enough. What is required today is the leadership style based on my self-awareness, my values, and my strengths. And that is the motto of UinLEAD to enable that leadership.
And in your experience of coaching and working with different organizations also, how the change or how the burnout is experienced by a CXO or a CEO or a founder in a startup versus a CXO or a leader or a CEO in a big, setup.
Let's go into a little bit history of where the burnout came from, and there's different theories. One theory is the burnout came from the space rocket, right? So you've got a booster engine, it burns for some time, it burns out, and then the gravity of the celestial body pulls the spaceship into the space. Here I'll be quoting Dr. Christina Maslach, who is considered to be a foremost expert when it comes to the workplace burnout. From her decades of research, she calls it as a three dimensions of burnout. The first one is the exhaustion. Second is the, the workplace culture. How do we relate to it? And the third dimension is the feeling of personal accomplishment. So in my experience, Ankur, while the burnout is typically related with the startup, with the nature of uncertainty, the nature of establishing the product itself, and that's what the startup comes into. There's an inherent uncertainty, inherent instability, inherent lack of processes also when you talk about the startup, because they're going through a phase of first coming up with a product and then go to market and then
Yeah.
maybe reach to a monetization. And then when they've done all of it, then there's a need of process optimization, compliance. So you can't just have the speed. So this is typical of a startup, large organization which has been there for several decades, has a what we call well-oiled engine. So the processes are there,
Mm. Yes,
which is
yes.
missing in case of a startup. And not only processes, most likely there would be a hierarchy of leadership also, Ankur.
Yes, yes.
So you do have various departments, starting from accounts to HR to finance to compliance, which is all in place. The leader can actually rely on them. In a startup, there could be a single person doing most of them. However, at the same time, now corporate, as we were discussing earlier, even the established organization, because of the disruption, are becoming a high stress for the leaders and down the hierarchy also, equally for everyone, because everyone is feeling that change.
Yes, all the decision making is there with the startup founder who's there because he's almost taking care of all the departments or major decisions in all the department, depending upon obviously the size of
Yeah.
startup. So yeah, so
And
that's
I
a
think the
very
risk,
stark difference, I would say, and I'm sure that manifests very differently how the context for a startup CXO or a leader versus a big leader is slightly different, I would say. And also maybe their resource, availability. of with what is there with a big company versus a startup will also be very different. So I think that also makes a change in how a leader in these two setups, experience that differently. So is there any difference between being stressed versus facing a burnout?
Yeah. So as we say, and as we have heard from number of psychologists, that stress is could be good thing also. We need stress to survive. Just having a 8 hours of sleep and you're still waking up not feeling good.
Hmm.
You're working for 12 hours to 16 hours in your office, you still feel you're not doing enough.
Hmm.
And that's not for a day, not for 2 days, for the months altogether, right? That's when you're not stressed, you're getting to stage where you're already at a stage of burnout. See, I mean, burnout is complicated because the underlying reason could be many. I
Okay.
have worked with senior leaders who have just achieved a promotion they have been looking for years, and now they're feeling that this is not what they wanted, and that's not they're feeling that this is not fulfilling for them, and then they're getting into a stage of burnout. A leader who wanted a position in a global location for years, he got that position, and then he realized that you know this is not working out.
It's very interesting example you shared, that a leader wanting a change, a positive change which has happened, and now suddenly, he is little off the balance, that it's a reality, which we can't obviously say it's a stress event, but
Yeah.
it's you can say it can, this interpretation of the situation can lead to a burnout. So Chetan, like, I've been in the corporate world, and I keep, as part of my health coaching practice, I keep speaking to people who are experiencing, burnout. Obviously, my lens is limited to the health part of it, or the physiological part of it. But from your side, what is that makes a leader who are able to come out of burnout faster versus who are still get trapped in the burnout?
Combination of the mental well-being,
Mm-hmm.
your physical well-being, the community which you have,
Okay.
the clarity of purpose,
Hmm.
and the inner drive.
Hmm.
So if one or more of this is missing, if I'm not physically fit, obviously it will have an impact very clearly.
Hmm.
However, community is something, again, we talk the leadership, sometimes the leaders feel they are like alone,
Hmm.
right? They can't share their challenges with anyone. And I think that's where also the coach come into picture.
Hmm.
Someone who a leader could confide in.
Hmm.
So if that community is missing, you
Hmm.
can't reach out to people, ask for help.
Hmm.
It you again are internalizing it more and more, Ankur.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, if you don't have the clarity of purpose, why you're doing what you're doing, if it's just coming from this work for someone else, so let me
Hmm.
try that. You don't
Hmm.
have the purpose. So again,
Hmm.
that can also. So I would say combination of those five factors, Ankur, one or more missing could make a difference. Does make a
Okay.
difference.
So can you define the value or the role of coach in helping leaders to manage this phase?
I would say not even manage, even awareness does not come sometime on our own, Ankur.
Okay.
We don't realize that we are actually being burnout. We
Mm-hmm.
feel that okay, I mean, I could feel that I'm overworked. I'm working 12, 14 hours and there's so much going on. So maybe that's the reason I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. And I would say, you don't even need to always go to a coach also. If you can sit down, have a reflection, have an honest reflection, have a journaling to see what's going through, and you can yourself become aware, you can probably take the second step, right?
So awareness is most, I would say, the first step, and a very important step, whether you do it yourself or you have a coach who helps you to bring that into awareness.
or maybe one of your friend.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
that's where the
By
community
coach I
come
mean
into
an
picture.
external person. Yeah.
Yes, and that's where the community comes into picture,
Hmm.
right? So maybe your workplace is providing that support, or
Okay.
could be maybe one of your peer
Hmm.
that's there. And
Hmm.
I've seen in some organization that culture is such good culture, even at the very high level, that camaraderie is very good. So it
Hmm.
can make all the difference. But again, as I said, most of the cases, awareness, acceptance does not come on its own. Then you need to reach out a professional, a coach who can help you, make you aware, as we say, show the mirror
Okay.
that what you're going through. And then from there, the journey can start and grow.
Because if you don't have awareness, you'll never take an action to counter it. As one of the key takeaways from the podcast, if someone who's watching this podcast, if you have to share what would be those 4 5 main patterns which can we can identify, okay, this is happening, like a checklist,
Mhm.
then you may be experiencing a burnout.
Sure. So the first one is feeling exhaustion,
Okay.
feeling tired, physically as well as emotionally. And when I say emotionally, what it means is that I'm just full of thoughts, right? I'm not able to think with clarity, Ankur. I
Okay.
think
Okay.
physical exertion is easy to identify. We sometimes ignore the emotional one. So, you're just lost in the thoughts all the time. That's the first one. Second one
Okay.
is you're getting into cynicism. You're getting into
Okay.
that complaining mode. The
Okay.
the workplace is not right, the environment is not right, the disruptions are happening. That cynicism is coming for multiple things. And the third thing, someone is not able to relate the value of their work. They are not able to see what accomplishment they are bringing
Okay.
in for self
Sense of
also,
accomplishment.
for the organization also, Ankur. So I would
Hmm.
say these broad three categories. So let's say, if, and these are the symptoms, these are not the root cause. And the
Hmm.
root
Hmm. Hmm.
cause could be again very varied. As I said,
Hmm.
the root cause could be that, and I'll again give an example. I worked with a startup founder who sold his venture,
Okay.
and then he moved to a different city. And
Hmm.
then over few months, he he started getting frustrated. He started procrastinating. He could not take any step towards his next venture.
Okay.
I mean, doesn't seem like a burnout, but it was a burnout. It was a
Hmm.
burnout because, not because of exertion, n- but because of lack of purpose, lack of accomplishment. The startup founder was so used to being creating the things, and that got lost.
Ah.
So, and
Okay.
that is again where the coach comes into picture, uh,
Hmm.
to get to that peeling, what we call peeling the layers of onion, Ankur.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what is deep inside, which is manifesting as the symptom?
Hmm.
That's again where coach could be of a great help.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Chetan, for giving us a lot of insights, which were not only limited to, I would say, better understanding. I would say, today in the podcast I had, that what exactly is burnout, how it is different from stress, how how leaders in startup and versus big organization, what's a key difference, and in today's context, how it is very, very, I would say, at a 360-degree kind of context is different for leaders today. And then what could be the patterns which you can identify to assess if you are experiencing a burnout. So these are very, very valuable, I would say, insights which we have got from today's podcast. And I'm very much looking forward to this series, that how you can then share how you can go about tackling that, and maybe delve a little bit deeper on the awareness aspects as well.